About the full moon in Taurus on November 22nd in the Nakshatra of Kritika, the cutter. So this is a time to connect to family, to the heart. There's also an opposition from Jupiter and Mercury in Scorpio. Quite a bit to talk about for the next couple weeks. This will be important, so check it out. So as you can see, we have the chart here for, this is November 22nd, 2018. You see the moon is here in Taurus at about 3 degrees. The moon becomes totally exalted here at 3 degrees, but you'll see that the full moon is exact at 6:30, right, about right here. This would be about 9 o'clock Pacific time on November 22nd. So you see this is in the Nakshatra of Kritika, which literally means the cutter. And this is the section of Taurus where the moon is at its highest exaltation point. And you know, the moon is in its exalted sign all through Taurus, which is where we settle and we connect to the heart, and the heart can settle on the fixed earth of Taurus, because the mind and heart and moon are related to water, and the water is always sort of flowing. And it doesn't take much for ideas and thoughts and desires to bubble up in the mind and create a lot of emotion that can be quite destabilizing at times and that we get attached to. And the things that we care about and that we love generates the most emotion. You know, our family, our money, and those things that get us, caring about life and the world, children and all that, are the things that also tend to generate a lot of emotion in us because we want them to work out a certain way. So all of this is, why we generate a lot of feeling and emotion around the people that we care about, right? Other things we don't care enough about, they don't, they also don't get us, really connected to the depth of our heart. So the nature of the mind and the moon is already restless and changeable. The reason it's exalted in Taurus is because Taurus is the most solid, fixed, stable, settled. So we can naturally be more relaxed and peaceful when the moon is in Taurus. So we can experience that and expect that on November 22nd and 23rd as the moon is literally at that point on those days. But the full moon is also like a cycle. It's especially like a 2-week cycle until the next lunation point, which the next one is when the moon is new in Sagittarius. So for the next couple weeks, we're actually really connecting with that exalted Taurus, or that exalted moon in Taurus lesson, and that Nakshatra of Kritika, which is to cut and to illuminate and to distinguish. Because what we need with the moon and with the mind is discernment and rational sort of criticism. And again, discernment is really the sort of yogic principle where we can separate truth from fiction, right from wrong, good from bad, thoughts from reality. Because we have all these ideas, and you might say, well, thoughts from reality. Thoughts are real. Reality is, if I smack my hand, I just smacked it, so that's real. That's a real thought. It's real, but it's not an ultimate reality. That's like a limited reality. You could say, I smacked my hand, or this hand smacked that one. That's a very surface level of reality. 2 + 2 = 4. That's a kind of surface observational truth. But those kinds of truths and those kinds of realities, again, are also, they're very much on the surface, and they keep us very much on the surface. For example, well, you said this thing and it was mean and it was wrong, and you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't lie. You shouldn't do this. All these things may very well be true. That's a level of reality, a level of mundane truth, but it's not ultimate truth. It's not metaphysical truth. It's not spiritual truth. It's not wisdom. True statements and facts aren't really wisdom, so to speak. it's some in some sense it's just sort of like data. But again, it depends on the quality of the data, the quality of the truth. I'm saying all this because this falls into the realm of discernment and discrimination and the kinds of thinking and the kinds of breakthroughs in our consciousness and awareness that leads to spiritual growth rather than just accuracy and being correct and being right. Again, a lot of these things, as you know, are obstacles to your spiritual growth as much as benefits. And I'm talking about this as well because not only is the moon exalted here in Taurus, but we also have Jupiter and Mercury retrograde aspecting the moon. And so again, the Nakshatra of Kritika, which means to cut and to discriminate, this is why the moon is exalted there, because we can have a lot of connection to the heart and to our feelings in Taurus. But in Kritika, it's where we also cut through and can distinguish and can discern what is some unhealthy attachment, what is just some idea we have, what is something that's not really taking us forward on our spiritual path. And we even often see where the Nakshatra of Kritika, when someone has their moon there, shows where the person will have a real tendency toward things that have to do with fire and clarity and illumination in those ways. Because, again, it's ruled by the god Agni, who is the god of fire. And of course, fire spreads light, gives light, illuminates, and shows us the truth. Once the sun comes up, we can see what's there. So it's this combination of stability of Taurus and discrimination and clarity of Kritika that makes this exaltation point so important. Now, opposite that, again, like I said, is Jupiter in Scorpio, Mercury also in Scorpio. And so when I was talking about being able to see through like data points and mundane facts, which can be Mercury, and instead using Mercury towards its highest point of discrimination, which is to navigate all of the details and organize things in the best way so as to really comprehend what's happening rather than just, sort of count things and put them in the right mundane spreadsheet category. When Mercury is joined Jupiter, like we see here, Jupiter and Mercury together can create a lot of intelligence and wisdom. It's very good for astrology and these kinds of studies because you bring all those details into the realm of higher wisdom and higher learning and higher teachings, which is related to Jupiter. So this is why I say all those details and data, they don't necessarily lead to wisdom, right? And that's what we see with Jupiter. Jupiter is really about wisdom. And he's aspecting from Scorpio, and again, of course, the sun is in Scorpio, so there's a lot of energy in Scorpio right now. All that energy is opposite the full moon in Taurus. So again, full moons are to harmonize and to balance the opposition point where we'll often have the sun, well, we always have the sun opposite the full moon, but we'll often have Mercury or Venus there as well because they're not too far from the sun usually, and then there might be other planets as well. So there's a lot of that Scorpio energy right now, that Scorpio power with the sun, Mercury, and Jupiter in Scorpio, which is about deeper exploration, finding the hidden messages, the themes in life, digging down into uncertainty and transformation and even, fear and restlessness and vulnerability. There's quite a bit of that right now because the sun is there with the other planets. And so the full moon in Taurus is to provide contrast to that energy, to that principle. That's what the full moon in Taurus is bringing forth. So it's opposite the energy of Scorpio, that energy of instability. We have the structure and stability of Taurus, which is the mind, consciousness, and awareness, harmonizing the volatility of Scorpio and the transformation and the excavation of our imagined fears and pressures. Okay, so connecting with your familiarity, your familiar environment and values and things that you've already experienced and that give you comfort, which is Taurus, is necessary when you're doing that deep inner work of Scorpio. Okay, so this is the sort of harmonic convergence of those things. And as you know, or if you don't know, but if you want to see how this will affect your sign, I have a member site where I do the full moon and new moon forecast for each of the 12 signs, because this is different if you're a Virgo, where this full moon happens in your 9th house, than if you are an Aquarius, where it happens in your 4th house. And I also do daily forecasts based on the Indian Panchanga every day, so you can also get that. Only 50 cents for 2 weeks. Then you can continue with the subscription if you want. So you can check that out as well. So a few other things, especially we also have this aspect from Mars onto the moon, because Mars aspects in that 4th house in front. So the aspect of Mars here on this exalted full moon also brings a sense of emotional courage and willingness to take on challenges and emotional challenges and benefit from that. But it can also bring some frustration and irritability if you're not careful. So some frustration, irritability, even some anger might emerge as well if you're not careful with this Mars aspect onto the moon. So all of these things are possible now, but for the most part, this exalted moon in Taurus is quite good for stability, structure, hopefully peace, and enjoyable circumstances over the holidays on Thursday and Friday, and even the next couple weeks as the moon moves toward its next lunation cycle, which will be the new moon in Sagittarius. So again, if you want to see how this will affect your sign, you can do that. Only 50 cents for 2 weeks. There should be a link here, and you can check that out. So thanks for watching, and share this with others if you think it will help them as well.